Today we are moving along in the herbal series, focusing predominantly on herbs that can be made into teas. And today's one we're going to talk about lemon tea tree. So this is quite a fragrant Australian native shrub or small tree, known for its very fresh lemon scented leaves, and it does also belong to the myrtle family. I've done a video about lemon myrtle. Lemon tea tree is a slightly different variation species of that, and yeah, you can often find it, especially in Australia, in a lot of essential oil ranges, especially if it's a brand or organization that does a lot of work on collecting and extracting plants that are native to Australia. And its leaves contain quite an aromatic scent, I guess you could say. Like it's a very distinctive citrus kind of fragrance, and its compounds are very kind of citral and citronellal like. And yeah, so where you would normally have found this in its kind of nativity, or where it would have been naturally found once upon a time, was predominantly really just in the sort of coastal and subtropical regions of Queensland, and then also northeastern New South Wales, which is actually the area that I reside in. I'm sort of in that sort of subtropical area in Queensland. And you can also now find it being cultivated in other areas of Australia. It's also some people have started growing it in places like New Zealand, United States, South Africa, and even some sort of Mediterranean, so places that are in that Mediterranean subtropical regions around the world as well. Now, when we're looking at some other aspects of tea tree, I'm just going to go through a few of those. And I'd just like to remind you that I'm not a medical practitioner. I'm not expressing that this plant will cure X, Y, and Z. I'm saying that this plant may assist with certain aspects of, maybe the mind, body, metaphysical nature of yourself or others. And you can take what you wish from this information. We'll also go into a little bit more of the traditional associations with this plant as well, further down in the video. So when we're looking at things like planetary alignments, we would probably be looking at, most would associate the planet Mercury with it, then following on from that being the sun. When we're looking at the elemental forces, the primary one there would probably be air, and then secondary being fire. We're looking at certain centers in the body and what it tends to work the most with. We're looking at places like the solar plexus, the throat, and the heart, so that kind of area very much in the center of the body. And a lot of the traditional herbal uses were, through a herbal tea, there was aromatic applications, there were cleansing methods, whether that be through actual practical application or what we might call more of an energetic or metaphysical cleansing application, and then also smoke cleansing, so burning it as well and being in the smoke of the plant. Now, the potential physical healing attributes with this plant, we're looking at things like the respiratory support, which is very common and amongst a lot of the myrtle families and the plants that have a very sort of citrusy like smell and aroma to them. It can be quite good for digestive support, antimicrobial reputation, skin support, and also insect protection. Insects don't tend to love that kind of citronella like smell. It tends to repel them, and if you're living in a place where insects do like to be out and about, do like to feed on us, on our human bodies, then applying having these kind of trees also just around can be quite beneficial with deterring them away from the human body, even if it's just for a short period of time. So when we're looking at the mental and emotional attributes, we're looking at things like mental clarity, emotional refreshment, stress relief, and confidence. And then getting into the more metaphysical, the sort of modern metaphysical attributes, we're looking at like energetic purification, illumination, protecting energy, and also new beginnings as well, which is a very common thing with citrus-like plants. Now, when we're looking at the more ancient ways and ancient stories of this plant, you know, the lemon tea tree often grows on, you know, on lands that are cared for by numerous original peoples across Australia and across, you know, most of Eastern Australia, shall I say, and many Australian native plants, including like tea tree relatives, you know, because there's actually various forms of tea tree. Most people know tea tree. We're talking about lemon tea tree, but there's so many other varieties of tea tree as well. You know, they have long histories of practical use for things like washes, aromatic applications. You know, there's environmental knowledge. There's also like traditional healing practices. And it's also important to recognize that this knowledge will vary from nations and communities. So we would often refer to particular groups of people that are inside of the lands that people call Australia, you know, Amaru these days, as nations. And they each have their own language, they have their own knowledge, they have their own practices. Some can be similar to neighbouring nations as well. And there can also be some overarching LORE across the whole of Australia in particular aspects. This is not a video which we're going to explore that too much. So I just want to also say, like, just because something has been used in a particular way with one nation does not necessarily mean it was used in the same way with the same purpose in another nation. And, you know, not all of these practices are what the modernized human would consider to be well documented, because it's not been written down on paper, there hasn't been scientific research, all of these sorts of things that have gone into that. And we're only able to retain the knowledge that may still be just like tethering on after many generations of particular things that have occurred that have tried to wash that knowledge away and wash that wisdom away, so that it wasn't passed on. Learning wasn't created further from that to then become knowledge, to then become wisdom for future generations. So yeah, it's a whole topic in and of itself. And so what I'm sharing here, it's not going to be used the same way across all nations, and we may not even know exactly how all nations used any of its plants. So yeah, it's just important to recognize that. And there is obviously a resurgence of people attempting to reclaim that and attempting to bring back a lot of knowledge and create more learning, more wisdom can be embodied for future generations. Yeah, it could be a long journey. I just wanted to recognize that here in this video. Now, the lemon tea tree is categorized in sort of modernized health terms as being like an Australian bush medicine. And, you know, the lemon tea tree and even just tea tree species in general became quite famous between, you know, those early colonizers, and, you know, those that were willing to listen, they would, you know, observe the uses of these kind of aromatic plants for cleansing and healing purposes. You know, those that came here with a level of curiosity and openness and were willing to work with the land and work with the people that had worked with the land for so long, you know, they were able to learn some of the ways, or at least respect them or attempt to respect them, and to a certain degree. So, you know, and over time, tea tree and lemon tea tree has become like quite a symbol of like natural resilience, self-reliance, and it's been used in quite a lot of bush medicine traditions. You know, among aromatic herbs, you know, lemon tea tree is often viewed as quite a bright uplifting kind of ally, and it can clear, that kind of like stagnant energy that sometimes we hold on to, while encouraging like clear thinking and like renewed motivation and like a sense of a fresh possibility. And I love looking at lemon tea tree in that lens and in that symbolism. And, especially after what I've just spoken to or just touched on as well, reconnecting to these plants and respecting them and seeking out those that still have the wisdom, the knowledge, and the courage to share about these plants is yeah, it's growing, I'm not really sure about this with me, but there is a generational shift, and I'm going to say the word hopeful. It doesn't quite describe the emotion, but there is this kind of like renewed, like, oh, like we really could be able to reconnect with a lot of these plants in their traditional ways and uses. Like it really could happen. It might not be for all plants and in all nations, but that possibility is alive and is there. So yes, if you've got any questions about lemon tea tree, if you have any other herbs that you would like me to do a video on, leave that in the comment section below. You can also reach out to me on various other social media platforms. The links to those are below, and we'll see you again soon.